Reiki, Mrs. Takata's story, Chapter 1. Once upon a time, for all proper stories begin with once upon a time, a gift of great value was given to the children of earth. Not all people recognized it as a great gift or honored it as such, but it was nonetheless a wondrous offering to those who could understand and accept what had been given. Throughout the ages, there had been stories of this magical gift, which came to be called healing. It has been talked of in many times, in many places, in such ancient lands as Egypt and Tibet and China and other countries past remembering. Some said that it was just a myth without substance. Others declared it was so. Many such stories grew around the activities of great teachers who had come to earth, the avatars, for it was said that each of them had brought this gift of healing when they had come to share their messages of truth with the children of earth. Yet such magic was no longer known nor practiced, and there were few, if any, who could truly say such a thing had ever existed. There were many legends about the healing miracles of great teachers, but such stories were easily dismissed when there had been no demonstrations of it for hundreds of years, if indeed such events had ever occurred. Those who insisted upon proof found none, so the ones who believed that such things were possible held this quietly to themselves, knowing there was no way to prove what they believed. Into this 19th century world of skepticism was born in Japan a child who was named Mikao Usui, a boy destined to become a scholar and philosopher as well as a profound healer. And then it says in italics, following is the story of Dr. Mikao Usui and his connection with Dr. Hayashi as told by Mrs. Takata. Educated by missionaries, Mikao Usui became a Christian and eventually rose to a position of eminence as the head of a Christian boys' school in Kyoto. In his dual role of minister and principal, Dr. Usui worked among his students until one morning at chapel service, several of the senior students politely questioned him during the service, asking him if he believed the Bible, literally believed. When Dr. Usui replied that he did, they then wanted him to demonstrate his belief by performing a miracle, one such as Jesus had done. As Dr. Usui was unable to do this, his students declared his to be a blind faith and insufficient to bolster their own, for they needed more than blind faith in order to believe. Dr. Usui was struck with the enormity of this questioning, and he asked the young men not to lose their faith. He declared his intention to immediately resign his position and to travel to a Christian country of the West where he would learn how to do the miracles of Jesus, returning then to Kyoto to give literal proof of his beliefs. America was his destination, where he enrolled in the Chicago University to study more deeply the Christian scriptures. His interest was centered on the healing miracles, and when it became apparent that he could not learn from his studies how Jesus healed, he began to delve into the sacred writings of the other great world religions. Eventually, he concentrated on the Buddhist writings, having learned that Buddha and his early disciples had performed healing. Intuitively, he sensed that the answer he wanted would be found in this tradition. After 7 years in America, Dr. Usui decided to return to Kyoto, where he would be able to study more fully the Buddhist sutras. There he visited many temples and monasteries, talking to the monks about healing. They were in agreement that Buddha had healed. However, this practice had been dropped from Buddhism, with the monks concerning themselves only with spiritual health and leaving the physical healing to the doctors. In the course of his search, Dr. Usui met a Zen abbot who invited him to remain in his monastery while pursuing his studies. The invitation was accepted, and for several years Dr. Usui remained with these monks. He studied first the writings in Japanese, and not finding what he sought, he decided perhaps much had been lost in the translations. Since Buddhism had been brought to Japan from China, he then learned Chinese, and he read the sutras in that language. He knew he was closer, but he still did not find exactly what he wanted. Again, he questioned the translation, deciding to learn Sanskrit, since Buddhism had come originally from India. He became a Sanskrit master, and it was in this language that Dr. Usui finally found what he had been seeking. The secrets of healing were his. He had found the symbols, yet he did not know what to do with them, nor how to use them. Not willing to accept this as the final answer, he decided to go a few miles outside Kyoto to a mountain that he considered to be sacred. There he would fast and meditate for 3 weeks in the expectation that he would be shown the meaning of the information that he had found. He discussed his intention with the abbot, with a request that if he did not return on the 21st day, some monks be sent up the mountain the next day to collect his bones. He did not intend to return without an answer. Dr. Usui walked to this mountain, some 17 miles from the city, and he found a quiet place near a stream where he sat in meditation, allowing himself only water during the long fast. To keep track of the days, he placed beside him a pile of 21 small stones, discarding one each day until only one remained. Thus, in the very early morning of the last day, he sat in the darkness which preceded the dawn, looking out into the heavens where he saw a distant light in the black sky. As he watched, this light became bright and appeared to rush toward him. Nearer and nearer it sped, and he realized it would strike him if he continued to sit there. His first impulse was to dodge, and then he thought of the years that he had searched for an answer. So he sat motionless, determined to allow this experience. The light struck him in the forehead, and he lost consciousness. When he came into awareness again, the sun was high in the sky, shining brightly, and he knew several hours had passed. Yet he had total recall of everything that had occurred during this period of time. When the light struck him, he became aware of beautiful colors, one after another, all the hues of the rainbow. This was followed by an intense white light, after which large transparent bubbles appeared before his eyes, each containing one of the symbols that he had found in the Sanskrit writings. As a bubble would move into his field of vision and pause, the instruction in the use of this symbol would be given. As soon as he had committed the information to memory, the bubble would move away and another one would replace it with a different symbol. And in this fashion, Dr. Usui was given the full teachings in the meaning of the symbols. He now had the secrets for which he had searched. He knew this was the universal life energy, which he called Reiki, and thus was born the Usui system of Reiki healing. Full of energy and eager to return to Kyoto, Dr. Usui arose from his long meditation and strode down the mountain. As he rushed along, he stubbed his toe quite painfully, so he immediately put to the test what he had learned. He grasped his toe, and he experienced an instant healing, and he received the first validation of the truth of his vision. As he continued down the mountain, he realized that he was very hungry, so, coming to a roadside food stand, he seated himself at a table which was covered with a red cloth, an indication that it was open for business. An old man came from the nearby kitchen to take the order. Seeing Dr. Usui's beard and dusty robe, he assumed this meant a long meditation upon the mountain, and he was reluctant to bring his guests the usual meal. Instead, he wanted to cook some rice gruel, knowing that after such a long fast, the stomach needs a gentle introduction back into solid food. Dr. Usui did not want to wait, so insisting on having whatever was ready and available, he was served pickled vegetables and rice, from which he suffered no ill effects. The meal was brought by the old man's granddaughter, who was in much pain from an infected tooth. Her face was swollen, and she had tied a cloth around it, so Dr. Usui asked permission to touch her cheek. The pain immediately ceased, and the swelling went down, prompting her and her grandfather to agree that this was a most unusual monk. Dr. Usui was elated to have another indication of the truth of his instruction as he proceeded towards Kyoto. The monks greeted him with gladness, pleased that he had returned on the 21st day alive and healthy. Inquiring after the head of the monastery, he learned that the abbot was in his quarters, suffering from great pain from arthritis. So as soon as he had bathed and had dressed in clean robes, Dr. Usui went to make his report. The abbot was very happy to hear that the search of long years had been rewarded, and that the secrets of healing had been revealed. He asked for a demonstration, which immediately relieved his pain. The two men discussed what should be done with this great knowledge, and Dr. Usui decided to go into the vast slums of Kyoto, where he would offer the healing to the beggars. He would then send the younger ones on to the monastery, where they would be trained by the monks in skills which would help them earn their living. In those days, the slums were an unsafe place for strangers to enter, for the beggars banded together under a leader, and they did not welcome others among them. Dr. Usui sought out the chief of the beggars, asking permission to live there and to heal the people, his only requirements being a place to sleep and to do his work, along with 3 bowls of rice a day. His request was granted, so he moved into this area and he started the healing work among these poor people, a task that fully occupied his time for a number of years. Eventually, he began to notice familiar faces as he walked about the neighborhood, and upon inquiry, he learned that these were indeed some of the young people that he had healed and sent to the monastery for training. They had returned to the slums because they found earning a living to be much harder than going out to beg each day. Upon hearing this, Dr. Usui felt himself to be a great failure, so he left the slums immediately, withdrawing to meditate upon what had happened. He remembered his early discussions with the monks, in which they spoke of their deep concern with the healing, spiritual healing of their followers, and he realized that although he had been very successful in balancing the physical bodies of the beggars, he had had no concern for their spiritual health. At this time, he added Reiki healing to his 5 spiritual precepts, and the precepts are as follows. Just for today, do not worry. Just for today, do not anger. Honor your teachers, your parents, your neighbors, your friends. Give thanks for all living things. Earn your living honestly. Dr. Usui also realized that in his giving away Reiki healing so freely, the beggars had developed no appreciation for it. They had no gratitude for this wonderful gift that they had been given through him. He determined never again to give Reiki healing to anyone who did not appreciate it. He began to travel throughout Japan, from town to town teaching others about Reiki healing. He was a wise and clever teacher, so having arrived in a town where he knew no one, he would walk through the marketplace in the daytime carrying a lighted torch. The people would laugh and they would make fun of such a silly man carrying a torch when the sun was shining. Thus capturing their attention, Dr. Usui would invite them to attend his meeting that evening if they really wanted to learn about the light. In this way, he gathered the people to hear the story of Reiki healing, after which many wanted to learn how to do this healing. He developed a large following of students, and in the mid-1920s, he met a man who became his most dedicated disciple, Dr. Hayashi, 47-year-old Reserve Naval officer. With the transition of Dr. Usui, Dr. Hayashi carried on this tradition of teaching and healing from his clinic in Tokyo. Dr. Hayashi was born from an illustrious family whose country home was in Atami. When he decided to open a clinic, Tokyo was chosen as the location which allowed Reiki healing to be offered to a larger group of people and attracted the affluent and the educated, even a high-ranking segment of Japanese society, the nobility. In one generation, Reiki healing had leaped from the slums of Kyoto to the palaces of Tokyo. He acquired a property large enough to accommodate both a clinic and a home for his family, with a beautiful garden between two areas to provide privacy. Mrs. Hayashi also worked in the clinic, greeting the patients as they arrived and assisting Dr. Hayashi as he supervised this thriving practice, where daily 16 practitioners gave Reiki healing treatments. It was to this clinic that a young woman named Mrs. Takata came in the fall of 1935, seeking relief from her multiple ailments. At that time, no one recognized the role she would play in the history of Reiki healing. And that concludes Chapter 1. And I hope you'll join me again for Chapter 2. I hope you're enjoying this. And till soon.